There comes a moment in life when the people who once loved your obedience begin to resent your freedom. It happens when you stop asking for permission to be yourself. Suddenly, some relationships become uncomfortable. Certain people grow distant. The noise in your mind begins to fade. And for the first time, you realize how much of your life was quietly built around the fear of disappointing others. The greatest prison isn't made of walls, it's made of approval. The Stoics understood this thousands of years ago, and modern psychology continues to confirm something deeply unsettling. The more your identity depends on external validation, the more fragile your inner world becomes. So what actually happens when you finally stop seeking approval? Do you become selfish? Do you become stronger? Or do you simply discover who you were before the world told you who to be? Today, we'll explore 7 powerful lessons from Stoicism and psychology that reveal what changes when other people's opinions no longer control your life. And the final lesson may be the one that transforms everything you thought you knew about freedom. 1. You stop living multiple versions of yourself. One of the exhausting realities of approval seeking is that it forces you to become a different person for every audience. One version for your family, another for your friends, another for work, another for social media. And after years of adapting, something strange happens. You forget which version is actually you. Modern psychology suggests that constantly managing impressions creates emotional fatigue and internal conflict. The mind is never fully at rest because it remains focused on how others perceive it. Perhaps you've experienced this without realizing it. Maybe you've agreed with things you didn't believe. Maybe you've hidden ambitions because they seemed too unrealistic. Maybe you've laughed at jokes that made you uncomfortable simply to maintain acceptance. Epictetus taught that if you seek the approval of others, you surrender yourself to their judgment. The Stoics believed that character matters more than reputation because character belongs to you, while reputation lives inside the minds of other people. The practical lesson is simple. Ask yourself one question: who would I be if nobody needed me to perform? The answer may be frightening, but it may also be the beginning of your freedom. And yet, authenticity comes with a price that very few people are prepared to pay. 2. Some relationships begin to change. When you stop seeking approval, not everyone celebrates your growth. Some people benefited from your constant need to be liked. They depended on your inability to say no. They expected your endless availability. They assumed your boundaries would always bend. Then one day, something changes. You stop apologizing for having standards. You stop explaining every decision. You stop shrinking yourself to make others comfortable. And suddenly people accuse you of becoming cold or distant. Seneca warned that the desire to please everyone inevitably leads to misery because human expectations are endless and often contradictory. You can disappoint one person by being honest, or disappoint yourself by pretending. The choice eventually becomes unavoidable. This doesn't mean becoming indifferent or cruel. It means understanding that love built on self-abandonment was never truly love in the first place. If this idea resonates with you, leave a comment below. Have you ever lost a relationship simply because you started respecting your own boundaries? Because what comes next completely changes the way we think about loneliness. 3. Solitude stops feeling like punishment. Many people remain trapped in approval seeking because they fear being alone. Silence feels dangerous. Solitude feels like rejection. An empty room becomes evidence that something must be wrong with them. But the Stoics saw solitude differently. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations that people seek retreats in the countryside or by the sea, yet the greatest retreat is found within one's own mind. When external validation disappears, something remarkable begins to happen. You start enjoying your own company. You realize that peace was never the absence of people, it was the absence of constant performance. Modern psychology has long observed that individuals with a stronger internal sense of self experience less anxiety and solitude because their worth is not dependent on external affirmation. At first, this sounds counterintuitive. Human beings are social creatures. We need connection. But connection and dependence are not the same thing. The strongest relationships emerge when two complete individuals choose one another, not when two incomplete people desperately need validation. Perhaps this is why you've started outgrowing certain environments. Maybe your desire for silence isn't isolation. Maybe it's maturity. But true independence requires an even more difficult realization. 4. Criticism loses its ability to control you. Criticism hurts. It always has. Even the Stoics acknowledged that human beings naturally care about social acceptance. But they also understood something profound. Pain becomes suffering when we allow other people's judgments to define our identity. Epictetus taught that people are disturbed not by events themselves, but by their opinions about those events. The criticism itself isn't always the problem. The meaning we assign to it is. Imagine someone questioning your career choice. If your entire self-worth depends on their approval, their words become devastating. But if your identity rests on your own values and principles, their opinion becomes information, not a sentence. This doesn't mean ignoring all criticism. Sometimes criticism contains truth. Sometimes it reveals blind spots. Wisdom means listening without surrendering your self-respect. The person who cannot be corrected remains arrogant. The person destroyed by every opinion remains imprisoned. Strength lives somewhere in between. And the next lesson reveals why approval-seeking quietly destroys something even more valuable than confidence. 5. You recover enormous mental energy. Think about how much time people spend worrying about what others think. Replaying conversations, imagining judgments, seeking reassurance, changing decisions to avoid criticism. It's exhausting. The mind becomes a courtroom where invisible audiences constantly evaluate every move. Seneca warned that suffering often comes more from imagination than reality itself, and few things exist more in imagination than the fear of social rejection. Modern psychology describes rumination as repetitive thinking that contributes to stress and anxiety. Approval-seeking fuels this cycle because the mind never receives permanent certainty. No amount of praise is ever enough. No compliment lasts forever. The hunger simply returns. But when validation stops being your primary source of worth, an extraordinary thing happens. Your mental energy returns. You focus on building rather than proving, creating rather than impressing, living rather than performing. If you've ever experienced that sense of liberation, let us know in the comments, and subscribe to Stoic Archway for more timeless wisdom that strengthens the mind and deepens the soul. Because what the Stoics discovered next may be their greatest lesson of all. 6. Your purpose becomes clearer. Approval creates noise. Purpose requires silence. Many people spend decades pursuing goals they never truly wanted. Careers chosen for prestige, relationships maintained for appearances, lifestyles designed to impress strangers. Then one day, they wake up feeling empty, despite achieving everything they were supposed to want. Marcus Aurelius repeatedly reminded himself to focus on what is essential, to avoid being distracted by the opinions, ambitions, and expectations of the crowd. The Stoics believed that every person possesses a unique role within nature, a responsibility to live according to reason and virtue rather than social pressure. When approval loses its power, your own voice becomes louder. You begin asking difficult questions. What do I genuinely value? What kind of person do I want to become? What would I pursue if failure carried no shame? These questions are uncomfortable because they remove excuses. You can no longer blame society for choices that belong to you. Freedom is beautiful, but freedom also demands responsibility. And yet, the final lesson goes even deeper, because stopping the pursuit of approval doesn't simply change your behavior. It changes your understanding of freedom itself. 7. You realize that inner freedom was the goal all along. The Stoics never promised a life without criticism, rejection, or misunderstanding. They promised something far more valuable: inner sovereignty. Epictetus was born a slave, yet taught that no person could truly enslave a mind that governs itself. That idea remains revolutionary even today, because countless individuals possess external freedom while remaining emotionally imprisoned by other people's opinions. They ask for permission to dream, permission to change, permission to leave unhealthy environments, permission to become someone new. But true freedom begins with a difficult acceptance. You will never control how everyone sees you. Someone will misunderstand your intentions. Someone will disagree with your choices. Someone will criticize the very qualities that others admire. And that is perfectly normal. The moment you stop negotiating your worth with the world, an incredible peace begins to emerge. Not because life becomes easier, but because your center of gravity finally moves inward. Men, perhaps this is the lesson you've been searching for all along. The realization that approval was never the destination. It was merely a distraction from becoming who you were meant to be. The Stoics understood that true freedom was never about controlling the world. It was about mastering ourselves. When you stop seeking approval, you don't become heartless. You become honest. You stop performing identities that were never truly yours. You create healthier relationships. You reclaim your mental energy. You discover your purpose. And ultimately, you realize that peace cannot be given by other people because it was never theirs to give. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. And perhaps one of the highest qualities we can cultivate is the courage to live according to our principles rather than our fears. So here's a question for you. Which of these lessons resonated with your own journey the most? Was there a moment in your life when you finally stopped needing everyone's approval? Share your experience in the comments below. And if you found value in this reflection, subscribe to Stoic Archway for more timeless wisdom on mental strength, self-mastery, and the philosophy that still transforms lives thousands of years later. Until the next video, remember, the greatest victory is not winning the admiration of the crowd. It is learning to stand peacefully within yourself, even when the crowd walks away. And if you're ready to go deeper, watch our next video on why strong people learn to disappear for a while, and what solitude teaches that society never can.